Technology is advancing at such a speed that maybe we are the generation that can generate so much longevity for ourselves that maybe dying becomes optional. I have come pretty much obsessed with a guy that is called Bryan Johnson. He's on a quest for longevity. He's actually actively trying not to die. I know that if I don't meditate, I'm going to fall into old patterns of anxiety and stress. And frankly, I don't want those anymore. If you want to create a life that skyrockets your energy levels and your happiness, you should definitely consider. Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, and today we're going to talk about 7 wellness tips that will skyrocket your energy levels. The reason why I wanted to record this podcast episode is because this topic is really important to me. Wellness, health, all of these things have always been important for me. Health has always been important for me, but this year in 2025, I decided to make it one of my top 3 intentions for the year. And the idea behind this episode is to share with you 7 wellness tips that will really allow you to boost your wellness, your energy levels, your health. And the idea is to inspire you, maybe give you new ideas, new things that you can try, new perspectives, so that if you want to have a great year with amazing health, not only in this year, but in the years to come, maybe this is the podcast episode that will inspire you to try something new, to go a little bit further, and to feel way better in your body. This topic, health and wellness, is absolutely important for me. Health is one of my values, so I deeply, deeply think about these things all the time. And the way I think of health is not in a reactive way. So maybe once something has happened, let's take care of that. But the way I think of health is always in a preventive way. What can I do now? What can I do today to avoid some things that could happen in the future? If I think of the things that I do control, what can I do today to put all the things that I can in my favor? What can I do today in terms of my diet? What can I do today in terms of how much sports do I do? What can I do today in terms of my sleep, etc., 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 so that down the line, when I'm 70 or 80, hopefully 90 or more, that person, that woman is going to be grateful that the version of me who's here today with 34 years old did all of these things today. Because health is built in the long term. Health is those things that we do for the long run. So what I want to share with you are some of those guiding principles that will help you boost your energy levels, have the most amazing health you can think of in the long run. And of course, I want to say that I am not trained in terms of like wellness and health and all of those things. This is just me being very, very curious, listening to a bunch of podcasts, reading books and articles, experimenting on myself, working with holistic doctors and practitioners, but it's certainly not medical advice. This is just what I have tried and what has worked for me. And I want to share that experience with you. As if we were 2 friends, chatting, having coffee, having a nice latte, and just chatting about what we do in terms of wellness and what has worked for us both. And before we dive into the 7 wellness tips, I do want to share with you that recently I have come pretty much obsessed with a guy that is called Bryan Johnson. Maybe you've heard about him, maybe you haven't, but basically he's a billionaire that is on a quest for longevity. He's actually actively trying not to die. So I first came across his work, his philosophy, his theory, his way of living on the On Purpose podcast with Jay Shetty. Then I listened to another podcast episode, The Diary of a CEO, where he was also interviewed. And now, more recently, they have a documentary on Netflix. And basically, what he's saying is maybe this is the generation that won't die. And probably, as you will hear these words, you're like, what? Don't die. Like, we're all supposed to die. What he's saying is that technology is advancing at such a speed that maybe we are the generation that can actually generate so much longevity for ourselves that maybe dying becomes optional, which is crazy to think about, right? And then basically he goes on a quest and he measured himself. He's done a bunch of tests. He's measured all of his organs. He's measured basically everything that is happening on his body. And he's been able to reduce his biological age. So right now he's 47 years old of chronological age. He started doing this, let's call it protocol, when he was 43. And he's managed to reverse the age of some of his organs to 18 years old, which is crazy, 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 crazy. So it is super inspiring. I will put a link in the show notes for both of these episodes. There's a bunch of interesting things in there. I think his ideas are very disruptive, are very, very revolutionary. I think his way of doing things, it's also a little bit extreme because he has a very, very rigid protocol. He has no exceptions. There's a way for him to sleep. There's a way for him to eat. There's a way, a time and a moment for him to even have sex. There's a way and a time for him to do exercise. Everything is measured. Everything is controlled. There is absolutely no room for spontaneity. There's absolutely no room for pleasure. Everything needs to be rational in order to maximize his longevity. So I think he's taking the exercise to the very extreme. It's actually interesting to see what happens when you do actually take it to the extreme. But what I want to suggest is, and what I learned from him is, okay, there's a bunch of big lines, big avenues that we can take that will lead us to longevity. And my mind has really been playing with this lately. And I want to share with you these 7 wellness tips that I have basically installed for myself over the past couple of months, over the past couple of years. And because of the way that he articulated these ideas, I've been able to also articulate for myself, okay, these are the big lines and the big avenues that I'm going to be traveling. And these are the big avenues that hopefully will lead me to amazing health and longevity. So let me share with you the 7 wellness tips that I am using in my life, that I have implemented in my life, that are absolutely skyrocketing my energy levels. So that hopefully, if you are interested in some of them, maybe you can test them on and see if they work for you. So the first wellness tip is, and this is so underrated, sleep. Sleep is so important for longevity, for regeneration, because when you're sleeping, your body is actually resting, rebuilding, repairing things that need to be repaired. And as a society, and Bryan Johnson talks a lot about this, as a society, we actually sleep when we can, as an afterthought. After we've worked, after we've seen our friends, after we've seen that movie that we wanted to see. So after all of that, we actually sleep. But in reality, we want to put sleep as a fundamental part of our lives. Why? Because it is so important for the body to rest and repair itself. So what I have been doing is I know that my chronotype, so the chronotype is the way your body, your circadian rhythm works. And we all have moments of the day when we have more energy or less energy. So I am an early bird, meaning that I have a lot of energy in the morning. And then as the day goes by, my energy levels decrease, 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 decrease. And basically by 10 a.m., I have no energy. By 10 p.m., I have no energy left. But I can conquer the world at 10 a.m. 10 a.m., 11 a.m., that's my moment to conquer the world. So basically, what I have been doing is I've been really planning my life around sleeping more. You've probably heard that we're supposed to sleep 8 hours. That's actually true for men. Men need between 7 to 8 hours. Women need between 9 to 10 hours. Also, depending on the cycle, in which week of the cycle we are, we're going to need more sleep. If you are in your bleed week, you will need more sleep. And if you're ovulating, your energy levels are higher and you will need a bit less sleep. But generally, as a general rule, women need 9 to 10 hours. So the 8 hour is a complete lie for us women. So what I have been doing is I know that my whole body works better if I go to bed early. And early for me means 10 p.m. And if I can wake up quite early, around 6:30 or 7. So before I used to go to bed at 11, 11:30, 12, which is so late, and then wake up at 7 with zero energy, to be honest, because maybe 7 hours and a half, 7 or 7 hours and a half was not enough for me. So basically what I have been doing is go to bed at 10, prepare myself, be in bed by 10, and then try to wake up on my own, let my body do its own thing, and wake up on its own around 6:30 or 7. In that way, my energy levels are just amazing. I feel like I can conquer the world. I feel like everything is okay. And I think we really underestimate the power of sleep. If you sleep properly, you will be more creative. You will be able to solve problems better. Your body is actually restored. So everything that needed to be repaired is repaired. And just your mood will be better if you sleep a lot longer. I know some friends of mine who, for example, during the weekend, they just don't put an alarm and they sleep for 10 hours straight. And then they wake up and they're like, whoa, completely new person. So I would invite you to, first of all, understand which chronotype do you have, because maybe you're an early bird or maybe you're someone who has more energy at night. And then in that case, you want to, go to bed later, wake up later, and really optimize and be there when your energy levels are at their peak, basically, so that instead of forcing yourself, you can actually enjoy the energy levels that are naturally there supporting you. So the first one is sleep. So important. Now I have my Aura ring and I'm actually basically tracking my sleep, trying to optimize everything that is related to my sleep. And there's a bunch of things that really do have an impact on your sleep quality. One of them is what time you ate the last meal, which is very important. We should be at least eating 2 hours before we go to bed. Also, that is something that is also super important is if you have drunk alcohol. If you drink alcohol, your body is not going to sleep well. If you do exercise very late, close to bedtime, you won't be sleeping very well. So there's a couple of things here and there that we need to consider if we want to have a very good quality of sleep. So that's point number one. Point number two is related to this, which is the fact that I do intermittent fasting every day. So I started doing in 2020, I was doing intermittent fasting for 24 hours. So I would have dinner on Saturday, then I would not eat for a whole day, and then my next dinner was on Sunday. And I really loved it. I felt like my body was really just resting and feeling light and feeling very good. And basically now what I have implemented is that I do intermittent fasting every day. So that means that I skip breakfast and my first meal is at 12. So I have lunch at 12, so pretty early. And then basically I eat a couple of things like snacks, healthy snacks, things like that during the afternoon. And then my dinner is ending maximum at 8 p.m. So I don't eat anything after 8 p.m. And basically, what this does is that I'm actually leaving some space for my body to digest. So between 8, the moment in which I finish my meals, and 10, this could actually be increased, but that's what I've managed to do up until now. So for those 2 hours, my body is actually digesting. So by the time I go to bed at 10, my body has already digested and I can go into the very, very deep sleep. And then what I do is that I wait. So I'm going to be sleeping, then I wake up, and then my first meal will be at 12, so lunch. And the fact that I'm leaving all those hours between 8 p.m. and 12 the next day, that's giving so many hours for my body to rest, to avoid being digesting, and digesting the whole time. And that's actually very good in terms also of longevity. There's a lot of proof that fasting is amazing for longevity. So if that's something that you want to try, you can try intermittent fasting on a daily basis. So meaning that you eat in a certain window and then you're not eating. Or you can also try a 24-hour fast. Or if you want to try like a super intense experience that I've also done last year, and I'm going to repeat this year, you can do an intermittent fasting for 5 days, where you don't eat anything for 5 days except for liquid that has lemon, cayenne pepper, and a syrup that gives you a bit of energy. And there you're basically just detoxing your body. And that is so, 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 so good for your body. Of course, when you're fasting, you need to do this with a lot of preparation. You need to read about it. You can't just go and fast. You need to read about it, make sure that you're taking care of your body. And then it's also super important the first meal that you will eat after your fast. So you want to have a soury meal when you end your fast, because otherwise you're going to have a glucose spike and that's not good for your body. If you want to try fasting, then the first meal that you will eat after your fast should be savory with a lot of veggies, a lot of protein, some fat. And if you can, try to avoid carbohydrates or put them at the very end of your meal. Start with your veggies, then your proteins, some fat, and then the carbs at the very, very end of the meal. So you have a much lower glucose spike. The third thing that I'm doing is that I'm actually reducing or completely avoiding 2 things that are not good for my body. The first of them is sugar. So historically, I was born in a household where my parents used to eat a lot of sugar every time they would come from work. So that's 5 times a week. They would bring something sweet for us, a chocolate, cookie, something sweet. So I grew up eating way too much sugar. So that was my childhood. And then during my teenage years and my 20s and early 30s, sugar was kind of like that food that I would use to kind of compensate and not even deal with emotions, to really just feel a bit more comfort when I was feeling anxious or tired or sad or pissed off. It was kind of like that thing that would give me comfort. Of course, this is not a good thing to do. This is called emotional eating. And I've been lately trying to reduce as much as possible processed sugar. So that has been a huge, huge, huge thing for me because it has been always there. And I don't think we talk that much about it, but we can actually develop a sugar addiction. I think I actually had a sugar addiction, and I've been able to reduce a lot my sugar intake. I still eat, of course, fruits and healthy things. And sometimes if I want, I will go and eat an ice cream, for example. I'm not like, avoiding sugar all the time, but because I also want to have a bit of pleasure, but I'm actually reducing a lot my sugar intake. And I'm really thinking about, okay, is this like a high quality kind of thing, or is this like a very cheap sugary thing that I can easily avoid? So I have really reduced my sugar intake because I want to feel good, because I don't want to have glucose spikes. Every time you have a glucose spike, you have a lot of energy, but then your energy goes down. Whereas if you have you're eating proteins, you're eating veggies, you're eating some fats, you don't have those glucose spikes. And then your energy levels are actually much more steady, which is what I want because I want to have high levels of energy and I don't want to have a peak of energy and then have zero energy after that. So I've reduced a lot my sugar consumption because I want to feel better. And then I've also eliminated gluten from my life, from my diet, but that's not because of choice. That's more because I realized last year in 2024 that I'm actually intolerant to gluten. So I was kind of forced to eliminate gluten from my diet. But I've been reading a lot about it, and it turns out that we could all be reducing the amount of gluten that we are actually consuming. So if you want to feel lighter, less bloated, you can actually start trying to also decrease the amount of gluten that you're eating and try to maybe switch to other things like more proteins, more fats, more veggies, more fruits, so that your body feels lighter and you feel better. Again, for me, this is more like something that I have to do because my body doesn't digest gluten very well. So I have completely eliminated gluten from my diet and I feel way, way, way better. The fourth wellness tip is alcohol. Oh my God, this is a huge topic. To be absolutely transparent with you, until 2023, I would say, I was drinking quite a lot of alcohol. So in my 20s, I wouldn't drink, when I was studying, for example, I wouldn't drink anything during the week because I was very focused studying. But then during the weekend, I was studying in college. We would go out with my friends and I would drink a lot. But maybe that was once or twice a week. Then when I moved to Paris, basically people in Paris, people in Europe, they meet during the week and they have drinks during the week. It's generally wine or beer. So there is less alcohol than when you drink spirits. But I remember that at some point while I was living in Paris, I started keeping track of how much alcohol I was having. And I think at some point it was like 5 or 6 days per week, which is a lot. It wasn't, maybe it was like 1 or 2 drinks, but at some point I remember I was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I was like, I actually had alcohol 5 or 6 days a week, which is a lot. Mind you, I was also working in the wine industry because, as you know, my story, I was a marketing director in the wine industry. So sometimes, even for work, for example, if we had a wine fair for 3, 4 days, you would be drinking wine. Of course, you spit because you do this on a professional level, But then we would have dinners, for example, business dinners, and there was always wine in there. And I remember it was so, so, so hard when we would go on business trips and there was so much food and so much alcohol for 4 or 5 days in a row. It was really horrendous for my body. So basically, now that I am not working in the wine industry anymore and that I get to decide when I drink or when I don't, what has happened is very interesting. And it's actually that my alcohol consumption went down a lot. So basically, now I don't drink anything during the week. And this is actually very easy for me now because I am so focused on my business and I really want to have the highest possible level of energy to hold space for my clients, to record a podcast, to interview someone, to be on social media. And I really want to have the best possible energy. And I know that if I have alcohol the next day, I will not have the best energy because alcohol is a toxin. Alcohol is poison. And it is proven that alcohol reduces the size of your brain, which is horrible to think, but that's what it's actually happening. Every time you have a beer and you think you're relaxing with your friends, every time you have a glass of wine in a nice restaurant and life is good, you're actually shrinking the size of your brain, which is horrendous to think about. And basically, now I am just not drinking anything during the week. And this has happened in a very natural, and it was a very natural progression because I'm so focused in my business during the week. And then, for example, we have some dinners with my partner. So it's like I live a pretty chill life during the week. And then on the weekends, we sometimes see friends, we do some activities, but I don't feel the need to drink that much anymore. I am so happy that I don't need a drink to make me happier. I feel relaxed. I don't need a drink to make me feel relaxed. I'm not dating, so I don't need to be drinking to feel comfortable in a date and talk to a guy that I don't know. I already have my partner. We feel super comfortable, so I don't need to be drinking alcohol to feel comfortable around him. And again, my whole goal with all of this is how can I increase my energy levels? And alcohol really decreases my energy levels. So naturally, I've just been like, you know what? No, 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 no. And then you just get used to not drinking or drinking very, very little. So now, for example, during the weekend, if we have a dinner and we go to a nice restaurant, and I am a wine snob because I loved wine as a hobby before I worked in the wine industry. Then I learned so much while I was in the wine industry. So I'm still a wine snob. So if I'm going to have a glass of wine, it needs to be a really, really very good, high quality glass of wine. Otherwise, I'm just not even going to bother. I'm not going to shrink my brain for for a glass of wine that it's not even good. Forget about beer, forget about anything else. I do like the taste of wine, so I'm going to have a glass of wine now and then. But that's pretty much it. Tip number 5 is doing sports. So I have been running for a long time now. We actually ran a half marathon last year, which was super fun. And basically, my commitment to myself is to run or do sports, move 3 times a week. And I found out that if I do it in the morning, then the rest of my day is just bliss. Mind you, I'm an early bird, so I do wake up early. I have a lot of energy in the morning. So then when I come back, I still have a lot of energy for the rest of the day. But that's basically what works for me. I like running. I know that Not everybody likes running, but what I would invite you here is to find something that you enjoy. Maybe it's running, maybe it's weightlifting, maybe it's doing a group sports, maybe it's just going to the gym and doing a couple of classes, maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's like whatever type of sports you find that actually makes you feel good. The idea here is to find something that makes you feel good while you're doing it and makes you feel good after you've done it. For me, running is the excuse to get out, be in nature. It makes me feel free. It makes me feel light. It makes me feel alive. I've always loved high intensity sports. I love feeling my heart pumping. I love when, my breath is a little bit short because I feel like I'm actually running. So when I was in college, I was playing basketball. I've always done aerobics. When I was a teenager, I was doing aerobics. When I was in college, I was doing basketball, boxing. Like I always loved these high intensity sports. So it is kind of natural for me to move into running right now. And that's what works for me. But I would invite you to find out what works for you. Maybe that's something that is related to aerobics. Maybe that's weightlifting. Maybe that's Pilates, yoga, whatever works for you. But find something that you love and do it at least 3 times a week. Tip number 6 is meditation. So if you've been in the podcast for a while, you know how important meditation has been in my life, in my journey, in my transformation. So, what I do right now, how my practices look like right now, is that I meditate every morning. I wake up, and the first thing that I do is to meditate. I don't get out of bed until I meditate. I meditate laying down on my bed. It's also a way for me to still be in bed a little bit longer. So don't imagine that I wake up and then I'm just like sitting with a tall and straight spine. I wake up, I grab my phone, I put a nice meditation. I'm always switching, I'm always trying new meditations. If I'm working on a specific subject, I'm going to do meditations that are related to that subject. So, for example, when I was working on my money mindset for months and months and months on end, I was listening to money mindset meditations. Now that, for example, one of my biggest intentions for this year is health and feeling good, I'm doing more meditations that are related to that topic. So, depending on the topic that I'm working on, or depending on the emotion that I feel that day, I'm going to try different meditations. So, I meditate every day in the morning. That's like a non negotiable because I know that if I don't meditate, I'm going to fall into old patterns of anxiety and stress. And frankly, I don't want those anymore. I feel so good when I'm at peace, when I'm chill, when I'm relaxed, when I'm vibing in gratitude, in happiness, in love. And that's the way I want to continue to feel. So I will continue to entertain my meditation practice every morning. And then what I'm including now is that in the afternoon, I've realized that sometimes my stress or the anxiety will kind of peak during the afternoon. And mind you, I told you that I was eating a lot of sugar before. And basically, I've realized that I was eating a lot of sugar, especially in the afternoon when my anxiety or stress was going up. So now, what I've decided to do is to stop eating sugar to deal with stress and anxiety and to actually go and tap into that emotion. So, what I'm doing now is I include a short EFT tapping or breathwork session in the afternoon. So, for example, in between sessions, maybe I have half an hour where I have a bit of time for myself. So I'm going to do a 10-minute EFT tapping session, or I'm going to do a breathwork session that will allow me to just kind of recalibrate myself again and feel good again, regulate my nervous system again, and therefore need less sugar or food of any kind to feel comfort. So I'm actually giving myself actual comfort and not comfort from food, from sugar, which is what I was doing before. And then tip number 7 is summer. Of course, we want to do this and take care of our skin and use a lot of, sunscreen, but it is so important for us to see the sun, to feel the sun on our skin, to have a lot of vitamin D in our bodies. So what I have done for the past 11 years now is that I have two summers every year. So I live in Paris right now. So I'm going to have summer between June and August. But I'm originally from Argentina in the southern hemisphere. And summer over there, it's between December and February. So basically, what I'll do is that I spend summer in Europe between June and August. And then I go and visit my family, usually for Christmas and New Year's or right after New Year's. And I spend there, for example, this year, I'm in Argentina for 6 weeks between January and February. So I've had summer 6 months ago. I'm having summer now. And by the time I come to Europe, spring will start and things will get better. So I know that my body just works better in summer. Like my body was built for summer. I'm a summer girly. My skin looks better. My mood is like way better. I get a little bit tan. I feel good. I'm just more relaxed. Like my body was literally built for summer. So I've built a life in which I can have two summer times every year because I definitely need it. I need sun. I need light. I'm a plant, basically. I'm a plant with a little bit with complicated emotions, but I'm a plant. So I have designed my life to have two summer times. And then every time I can, travel to some destinations where I can find a bit more sun here and there. So these are my 7 wellness tips to skyrocket your energy levels. I'm going to repeat them again just in case. Number 1 is sleep, being super consistent and very intentional with your sleep. Number 2 is intermittent fasting. So reducing how much you eat and really eating during a window and then not eat for some time. Number 3 is reducing sugar, gluten, or anything in your diet that is not supporting your energy levels. Number 4 is reducing, and if you can and want, just completely quitting alcohol, depending on where you are and how you feel with that topic. Number 5 is doing sports at least 3 times a week. Number 6 is having habits that include daily meditation, EFT tapping, breath work, journaling, anything that helps you relax, unwind, and just let go of the steam. And number 7 is looking for sunlight, being in summer as much as you can, and really making sure that your body is feeling the best. Again, all of these are kind of like big lines, big avenues that you can walk around. And all of these are guiding you to better health, to higher energy levels, to more longevity, and to more happiness, actually. So, if you want to create a life that skyrockets your energy levels and your happiness, you should definitely consider joining the Blisstopia Life Transformation Program. Inside of this 4-month private program, you will be able to know yourself at the deepest level and create a life that makes you feel amazing. During these 4 months, you will dream big, tune in with yourself, and define what success and happiness mean to you. You will understand how to bridge your current life and your dream life. You will be able to take action and make your dream life actually happening. Inside of this program, you will choose one topic in your life that you want to up level, and we will take it together to the next level. So if you're ready to transform your life forever, apply to the Blisstopia Life Transformation Program. You will find the link in the show notes. I will be so happy to guide you into building an amazing life that makes you feel so fulfilled. And if you've loved this episode, share it on your stories, leave a review. Basically, what I will start doing is that I will start sending you guys little gifts every time you share a story and you mention the podcast. So basically, how this is going to work is the following. If you love this episode and you want to share this episode with your friends, your family members, so that they can benefit from it too, you can take a screenshot, put it on Instagram as a story. Make sure that you tag mercedes.castellani and make sure that your account is public for 24 hours so that I can see that you've posted that story. So when you tag me on a story and I see it, I'm going to send you a little gift. And then the other thing that you can do is you can leave a review. So if you listen to this podcast on Spotify, you can put 5 stars. If you listen to this podcast on Apple Podcast, you can put 5 stars and a review. And if you send me the screenshot to my Instagram, so mercedes.castellani, I will send you a little gift as well. You can do this as many times as you want. Every time you do it, I'm going to send you a little gift. If you post a story and you send a review, you're going to get 2 gifts. So every time you do it, you're going to receive a little gift from myself. I will see you on the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.